Good morning. I know it's been a while since I've been able to present a new rifle for my collection, what I did was I got an early birthday present from my wife, and I'm lucky enough to have a wife that would buy me a gun for my birthday. And so what I have is it's a 1892 Berthier carbine, artillery carbine. We'll talk about that. The French called it, and forgive as people say, "Oh, forgive my French." Well, really, forgive my French. It's it's called the Mousqueton d'Artillerie. There was two different uh, carbines that were made, and we'll talk about that. So what happened was in around 1886, Lebel, the French arms company, made a rifle, and it was being used by the the French forces pre World War One and for the colonial uh, purposes to put down insurrections and stuff for the French. Uh, One of the problems was that it was a tube fed. Uh, so instead of having the magazine or whatever, it had the tube magazine. So the soldiers had to load one round at a time, and that just didn't go well. They tried to make a carbine because they looked around in the Russians and whatever the cavalry was carrying smaller rifles that they could use. So they tried cutting down the labels and making them into carbines, and all that seemed fine. But the people on horseback still had problems with the loading their weapons while they were on horseback because they had to put one round at a time inside. So they put out a thing to try to find a better way of doing this. And there was a guy, his name was Berthier, Andre Berthier, I think it was Andre, well, his last name was Berthier. And he was a civilian engineer working on the Algerian Railroad. And he came up with a design and to what we know now as the Berthier rifle. And the Berthier rifle used a different um, round. It used the Lebel 8 millimeter round, and it also used clips. And the reason that it used clips was this is the round here, and you can see it's kind of an odd shape, and it wouldn't fit inside, or couldn't be used inside the traditional Mauser type stack magazine, so they had to use the clip. The clip that the carbine used, because I mean this sucker is small. It's like about 3 feet long. It has a barrel about 17 inches or so. So it's a small little gun. So what they used was a 3 round clip, which is kind of cute, isn't it? And this is the old style coated coated rounds that they had. And what was I say? So they had the 3 round clip. So it was better than what they had, and they were pleased with that for a period of time. And so let's talk about this gun here for now, and then we'll talk about other stuff. Um, Before the end of World War One, or actually before this gun was replaced by the in 1916, they had made 675,000 or so carbines, and they had two different type of carbines. They had the cavalry carbine, which was the first one that came out, and that came out in 1890, and people were pleased with it. It had no bayonet lug on it. They figured the cavalry had no time to put a bayonet on, and and that's where we had things like the Carcano cavalry um, carbine had the folding bayonet, so they didn't have to actually put the bayonet on. They just folded out, and it was there. But anyway, so it had no uh, lug for a bayonet. The actual cavalry carbines had a side-mounted swivel and had a ring on it that so that they could wear it that way. They're like most cavalry type carbines at the time were. But this one was for artillery, and it was came out in 1892, and they figured it says artillery, but it was actually for support forces. It was for like the engineers and the runners, the messengers. It came so anybody that would use a smaller rifle and not have to be like on the front line with a rifle. They used a smaller rifle, and it was better for them. Um, and like I said, this sucker is small, and I measured the barrel this morning. I think it's 17 and a half inches, and and it served a good function for these people that were busy doing other stuff that they didn't have a big cumbersome gun hanging around them. Okay, it's a bolt action, and the bolt is different than some of the others. Is it's more. I took the bolt out to clean it, and to get the bolt out, you have to unscrew this and unscrew that and twist this and get the bolt out, and it's a lot more complicated, say, than a Mauser or any of the others to get the bolt out. You can't just simply pull the trigger and the bolt comes out. It has a Mannlicher um, magazine area where you can't load a single round. Okay, you have to actually use a clip. Then we had the 3-round clip, and it would go in and it would push down. I'm not going to do it. And that was a problem later on, that they only had 3 rounds during World War One. The Germans and whatever had 5 rounds, so these guys had to keep replacing their clips because they would use them. The other problem that they had with this model was it was like the Mannlichers, where you get to the last round and the clip falls out the bottom, and you put the next clip in. But this is wide open. And sitting in the trenches and doing things, a lot of mud got up inside there and dirt, and it caused problems. So in 1916, they came out with a different version and called the M16. So I guess the Model 16. And what it did was it actually increased the size of the clip that you could put in. It was 5 rounds, and it also closed this in pretty much like, if you can remember the way that the Carcanos and the Mannlicher that I had, the steer, it's pretty much closed in except for where the actual magazine is going to fall out. And it actually came with a clip that you could put over it to cover it up and keep the mud out. So, but that was a big deal. It's got a little bitty sight on it, up to 2,000 yards. I still wonder about some of these the carbines that have a 2,000 yard sight on them. I mean, that'd be a hell of a shot with iron sights, 2,000 yards with a 17-inch barrel. So this one has a thing on it here that it's a ring that I've heard called the saddle ring, whatever. But this apparently the ring is on both sets of carbines that are there. Up here on the top, you have your cleaning rod, and I like this. The cleaning rod is brass on the end, so it's a brass cleaning rod. The other thing that it has is this is the lug for the bayonet. Let's see if we can turn it. Okay. So what happens is normally the regular bayonets, they have a slot in them, and you push it down and it goes into the slot and it locks. The bayonets for the Berthiers have a hole in the bottom, and you push it down over the barrel and over this here. And I don't have one of those. I was given a bayonet with this when I bought it, and when my wife bought it, but it's the wrong bayonet, and it's a bayonet for Remington, which I still have to do some research on that, and it's a falling block Remington, which actually turned out to be well, certainly it won't fit on the Berthier. So the Berthier has a on the back of the the bolt. It has a handle, so you can if you want to, you can manually do that. There's no safety on the gun. There's no manuals. There's no manual safety on this. So what they did was they had told the troops that you are to march and do whatever with an empty chamber, and then when you get ready to use it, chamber around, and that way that would avoid the need for safety. But um, I mean, I don't know how effective that was, and whether I'm sure they put a safety eventually on some of the guns that the French had, but this is certainly not one with a safety on it. Uh, this is one gun that I have wanted. It was kind of in the back of the list, but it was one that I had wanted for a while. There's another French gun that's out there, and I would love to have that one too. But this is an MAS, and is the one that and they come in semi-automatic, but these obviously were well pre-semi-automatic rifles. This was made. The French were nice enough to put on the side. I'm going to try to pronounce it here. Châteauneuf. They made it in Saint Etienne and Châteauneuf, and this one was made in Châteauneuf. And the reason that you know that is because it's written right on the side of the barrel. Up here it tells you that that's where it was made. And actually it's right over here. It says Châteauneuf, 1892. So there's no question about when it was made or where it was made. All the numbers match. It's a good gun overall. I went out and fired it a couple of times yesterday, and there's something about firing a 130-year-old gun. It was a good time. So, all right, well, that's the Berthier Carbine, and thank you.